Hello, everyone, and welcome indeed to the second installment of this StarCraft 2 AI development series. Um, so, as we discussed in the previous episode, um, we are going to be designing a AI for the Protoss race. Now, we kind of settled on that as, I myself have had more experience as playing that race myself, and B, things seem to be a little bit simpler for Protoss as far as ease of creating a bot. We shall see if that actually pans out. Alright, so race chosen. Now the question is, what programming language are we going to use? Now, the sharp-eyed amongst you might have noticed on the top of the screen already, we are going to be using the Python language. For me, that's a language I've had experience in. In fact, it was some time ago where I created a fairly basic machine learning AI for StarCraft in Python a few years ago. So it sort of seems natural to me to stick to more or less what I know. I did sort of intend for this to be a bit of a blog about the development of this AI, but I'm also realizing that I'm effectively creating a tutorial for others to follow as well. So I'm going to try and make this as straightforward as possible. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask in the comment section down below, and I shall get to it as soon as I possibly can. Alright, so let's say, for the sake of argument, you don't have the Python programming language on your computer. Well, that is easily remedied. First, we head to python.org, specifically the /download section of the website. Excellent. So having reached that, we'll go down here and download. Where is it? Now I've lost it. Ah, yes, there it is. The 3.10 version. That's the latest version that works with the API we'll be using. Do not download 3.11 because as of the date of this video, that version will not work. And besides, well, this tutorial is going to be using 3.10. So for compatibility and all that, it's probably best until a future update to the API breaks things to stick with 3.10. Okay, so you download, go through the very simple and straightforward installation process. There is one more thing we need to do before we actually get to the API. Because you'll be using a command in the command window to install the API, and it's just easier if you use the command, for one thing. Okay, so we need to be able to link the command to the command window, and we can do that. Oops, itchy trigger finger. we do that by adding it to the path. And this is on Windows 10, and doing that is quite easy. And just hit your Windows key and type in edit the system, edit the system environment variables. Bang. Hit environment variables and find the section here that says path, edit. Now you hit new and find where you installed Python and copy paste the address into this section here and hit OK. I've already gone ahead and done that, obviously, but this is so you know how to do it yourself. And it's very straightforward. Okay, now that's Python done and dusted. Now let us proceed now to GitHub. This is the API we'll be using. You will have to agree to be bound by Blizzard's AI machine learning license. So if you don't agree to that, well, you may as well stop following this tutorial. Because I can't in good conscience encourage you to do so without agreeing. But let's assume you agree, yeah? So, now we need to install the API client. And it's very simple. Open up your command prompt. You may have to run the prompt as an administrator, depending on how your computer is set up. Me, it's fine as it is. Alright, so it's a simple command. Type pip install -- upgrade Bernie SC2. And blam 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 blam, you'll get all this. Except of course you'll have download. Everything will automatically download and get into the proper spot, and everything will be fine. Okay, now you got the API installed. Now we need to get maps for you to play on. So naturally, open up the directory where you've installed StarCraft 2 and find the maps folder that's in the same folder as the StarCraft 2 executable. Of course, on a fresh install, this maps folder might not exist yet. In case it does not, you have to create it yourself. Alright, that done. And I'll drop all these links in the description box below, so no need to panic about. You can simply click the links below, assuming YouTube allows me to do that still. Fingers crossed. Alright, so next up is to get maps to play on. You can, if you wish, download maps from Blizzard's website. But for myself, I'm aiming to take this bot onto competitive AI versus AI ladders. So it's going to make sense for us to train our AI on maps that are being used by that competition. So this is the link we go to download maps for the AI versus AI competition. Just find the most recent collection download it, and access your maps folder, and extract the maps into this folder here. Bang. Done. Nice and easy. Alright. So we are basically ready to go. Now the next step is to have your developing environment. For myself, I'll be using Sublime Text. For me, it does just as good a job as anything else. But there's nothing to stop you from using Visual Studio or any other developing environment you prefer. It'll boil down to being the same thing, really. But hey, yeah, you do you, and everything will work out just the same. Okay, so now that's all done, and let us now have a look at the Protoss tech tree. So this Nexus here, that's basically the Protoss main base, as it were, its main building, from which just about everything is made possible. Nexus buildings train probes. The probes are the Protoss workers who go and harvest resources and build the various buildings. Assimilators, in combination with your probes, will generate Vespane gas. Vespane gas is used to build better units, research upgrades, just about everything. The pylons, they generate supply and raise the population cap of your side up to a maximum of 200 points. Okay, so that's the gist. Now the question is, what sort of army do we want? Protoss has quite an array of weaponry at its disposal, but I think we're going to try and keep this as simple as possible. And so we are going to completely ignore the ground, for our army anyway, and focus on building air units. This sort of army we'll be building is colloquially known in StarCraft as Skytoss. Very imaginative. So you can see from this tech tree, we're going to need a Nexus, which thankfully we start with in every multiplayer match. And from there, we'll need to build a pylon, because pylons not only raise the supply cap, if you remember from the previous video, they also provide power to nearby buildings. So, we need a gateway, and from there, we need a cybernetics core. Cybernetics core unlocks ranged units, ground range units, which we won't bother with for a long while. But interestingly enough for us, they also unlock upgrades for our warships, which will be very useful at a later point. And finally, well, not so much finally, but this is the building we'll be seeing a lot of, the Stargate. And Stargates are responsible for training 3 quote-unquote basic units. We have this fellow here, is called the Phoenix. That's basically your air-to-air expert. Although the Phoenix does have a special ability where it can pick a unit up from the ground and basically trap it in a so stasis field above the ground, allowing other air units to engage it without having that tracked unit fire back. The slight con to that is, while this Phoenix is concentrating on lifting up that particular unit into the sky, the Phoenix itself, doing the lifting, can't shoot. So you'll need a couple friends. Next up, we have the Oracle. It's got a couple nifty abilities, but one we'll end up using more often than not. Will be basically its air-to-ground laser. Oracles are used, especially in the early game, by Protoss to harass the enemy's economy, so attacking the resource gatherers and so on. A well-timed Oracle attack on an unsuspecting, unprepared enemy can quite easily result in a damn near automatic victory. But these two are fairly complex, which brings us to probably the most straightforward unit in the Protoss army, the Void Ray. It can shoot other air units, it can shoot the ground, and its special ability, Prismatic Alignment, allows it to do bonus damage versus armoured things. So any units on the ground that are armoured will take extra damage. And most buildings in this game are considered armoured as well. So, yeah, Void Rays will do well against buildings. Now, this is for a later episode, but we will eventually move on to building a fleet beacon. Fleet beacons unlock even more upgrades for our flying warships. They also give us the ability to train 3 more advanced airships. So we have the Tempest, which is a slow firing but very long range ship. We have the Carrier, very useful little tool. It automatically builds and replenishes a source of fighters. An enemy comes by, you see this little swarm of fighters zoom out and attack the enemy. Looks kind of funny, actually. But yeah, it's quite deadly in the right numbers. You probably need like 2 or 3. One is counted a bit too easily, but yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. And finally, we have the mothership. Absolutely huge thing. It's got all sorts of abilities, but one that'll be quite useful, and it's automatically triggered, is anything under it is invisible to the enemy until and unless the enemy has a detector in range, or the mothership, of course, gets destroyed. Very, very useful. But, as I said, that is for a later time. We shall be focusing on the Void Ray to start with. Now, I realize I've been talking for a bit, but now we're going to do some coding and basically verify in this way that everything's installed properly and everything's working as it should. It's not going to be anything overly complex and special. It's just a simple little script that'll launch the game, do something simple, and that'll be about it. Okay, so let's fire up the developing environment of your choice. The first thing to do, file, save as, and save it as something memorable. And because we're using Python, don't forget to save it as a .py file. Okay, when you're done, hit save, and let's get it going. Now, first of all, we're going to have to start off with a few imports. So let's get started with from sc2.bot_ai import drumroll bot AI. Dun 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 dun. Oops. Damn autocomplete. Yeah, watch the autocomplete for the developing environment of your choice. It can be very annoying if it wants to insist that you're wrong. Okay, now we need to import a bit of data straight from StarCraft itself. So from sc2.data import difficulty, because we'll be training against certain difficulty of AI, and we'll also need to import their race, because we got to pick our opponent, eh? Alright, now from sc2.main, we are going to import the ability to actually run the game with an absolutely complex command called run_game. Now we need to be able to tell our wonderful script about the players. So we want to be able to tell it about the bot and the computer. Now the bot is us, the computer is the enemy. And from sc2 import maps, which will import, would you believe, the maps. I will import, I like to put a space in between sc2 and other imports. I like to put a space in between them. You don't have to, won't change anything, but yeah, this is how I like to do it. For me, it makes it easier to read. Okay, now we're going to start coding our wonderful AI, such as it is, or as it will be at the end of this video. Okay, so we start with class. Now, name your bot with this next little bit. I'm going to call mine BassFish4Aiur, and then we'll pass bot AI into that. There we go. And next up, we type async def on step, because StarCraft works on a bit of a step system. Self iteration, and we want that to be an oops. Capitalization is important. Self iteration in integer. There we go. Now we are going to keep track of how many iterations we've been alive, so how many steps we've been alive. So to do that, we will say print open bracket f, type whatever you like within these quotation marks. I like to have something humorous. So let's see. Yeah. Our wonderful community. Oops, spell right, Balamar. Community God, so I could type in English. A wonderful community driven and developed AI has been alive for this many iterations. Okay, colon, space, curly brackets, iteration. Make sure that the closed curly brackets are in. The end quotation marks are in the closed in bracket. All right. So now we are going to introduce a couple little lines. This is where we'll use the random import. We are going to try and keep things as simple as possible for our bot, but there are some randomness we can't really account for. So things like what map we're going to play on, for instance, and what race is the other opponent. I mean, we can't specify either or, I'm afraid. So it's basically going to happen at random. So I'm going to replicate that in our script here. So, easy way to do that. We shall first of all create a variable for our maps. So we'll start with our map is equal to random.choice. Parentheses, square bracket. Now, to get and quotation marks, don't forget the quotation marks, very important. So now what you'll do is, to make sure the spelling is correct and all that, open up your maps folder, right click on the first map, hit rename, copy, and then click back in between the quotation marks, paste. And carry on and do that for all the maps you've downloaded. And boom. There we go. These are the maps I downloaded. You might have downloaded others. Who knows how much time has passed. Alright, now we also need to randomly select our opponent's race. So we shall do that by typing R race for random race is equal to, again, random.choice, parentheses, square brackets. Now, because these are defined variables in our API, do not use any of the quotation marks. They're not needed. In fact, if you try, you'll just break the script. So, as I was saying, without the quotation marks, we'll start off with race.zerg, comma, race.Darren, and race.Protoss, and race.random. Now, already. Balamar, why are we including random as the fourth race? I mean, surely if we just pick between Zerg, Terran, and Protoss, that's randomly choosing the 3 available races, right? You are correct. There's no arguing that. However, talking to the community, it turns out that how to describe it simply. Well, let's put it this way. The AI behaves differently to the race.random as defined actually in StarCraft, as opposed to a randomly chosen between Zerg, Terran, and Protoss. It makes sense when you think about it because the AI doesn't know what the other race is. Just that it has an opponent. It doesn't know what the other race is, really. So it makes sense if you think about it. Alright, next up we'll run the game with this little script here. So run _game. Open up your parentheses. Okay, now we'll type maps.get. Pass our variable rmap, comma, enter for the sake of keeping things nice and neat. Now type bot, and we're choosing our own race here. Race.protoss. Yes, there we go. Comma, and the name of the bot we typed in earlier. Don't forget to do another set of parentheses. There we go. Oops, slight error there. Bang. Yeah, so make sure the comma is immediately after the closed parentheses there. Right, so next up we need to define the computer. So computer is the random race variable, and we're going to choose its difficulty. It's difficulty.hard. Now that's the absolute bottom level AI I would be happy for our AI to beat. Anything lower than attempting to train an AI lower than that will effectively be pointless. Most online players in StarCraft, those who are average at the game according to multiplayer competitiveness, would be able to smash the hard difficulty quite easily, 9 times out of 10. So this is the bare minimum of what we want to be able to defeat. And finally, a nifty bit of code, real time equal to false. Now what this line will do is essentially, when the game runs, run it as fast as possible. Very good for generating data for bots when we finally get to doing our reinforcement learning. Don't forget to save your script. And now we are going to see if our script works. So here we go. Let's execute our script. And hopefully everything works. We'll get StarCraft starting up in a moment. There we go, StarCraft loading up. And we have a map chosen. Excellent. There's a bit of a loading thing. You can sort of reduce this initial loading time beforehand if you're organized by launching into StarCraft, opening up the menu options and turning down all the graphics to its lowest. Now here's our glorious bot. All it's doing is sending our workers to mine. We haven't told it to do anything else, nor is our AI aware that anything else is possible. But, oh, there we go. The Terran are attacking us. We've lost our final building, and so we lose. Alright, so that was 945 iterations. Okay, so let's launch again. Ideally, we'll have a different map and a different enemy race. Of course, who knows exactly. Oh, look, we got a different map. Excellent. And we'll be able to have a peek at the race. Okay, what do we got? Our enemy AI is a brother Protoss. How rude. Civil war amongst the Protoss. For shame, for shame. Oh, there's the enemy scout that just came by. Alright, so oh, there we go. Bang, 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 bang. We lost our last building. Game over. Alright, one more. Just for absolute final confirmation, third time for luck and all that. And hopefully everything works. Okay, yep. Hardwire. And we'll see what race our opponent is. And, ooh, random. We randomly chose random. So we can see our script is basically working as intended, such as it is. Oh, did I just see an SCV work its way in? Yep, I think that was. Okay, and now we'll just wait for annihilation. Boom. And there we have it. So in this tutorial, we installed Python, we installed the API, and we now have a script that can randomly choose between a given pool of maps, a given pool of available races, and launch the game. Next up, we'll start building things. I think that'll be a good continuation. We probably won't be winning games next tutorial, but we'll start putting the building blocks necessary. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. GG, y'all.